people who are outspoken against universal health insurance are people who have health insurance, which seems a little bit disingenuous because they can't begin to understand how terrifying that would be.
I'm in the place where I have not had my basic physical for several years, in desperate need of having that, but yet I don't dare get that physical in the event that something is found and I am stuck with a pre-existing condition.
There's no issue that I feel more passionately about, because I know what it's like to be discriminated against in healthcare because of who I am. And I know that as someone who comes in with certain pre-existing conditions. When I was moving to my current ministry, I was pregnant, and I had a very, very hard time getting health care coverage because my pregnancy was a pre-existing condition.
Because of that, a lot of people never get the surgeries and the stuff that they need. I used to know a woman who, it started her transition and had been on hormones for a long time and lost her job. And the thing about hormones is their effects of hormones are reversible. And so all of a sudden you lose everything you gain, your body starts to revert back to the way it was. It's a really sad situation when people can't get the care they need.
In many employers and many institutions in many states, benefits aren't shared, and so that group is a couple, but they may not be able to have their partner have health care benefits, or their children have health care benefits, or even to have children or adopt children.
The irony here, of course, is for 17 years I worked in the insurance industry, and I sold health insurance amongst other products, and I had health insurance, and very, very good health insurance. After I left the insurance industry, I lost my health insurance. And it became very, very clear to me at that point that if something happened to my kids, I would find a way somehow to go deep into debt. But if something happened to me, I just wasn't going to do it. If I was sick, I was not going to go in.
It's frustrating that people would take the time to deny people these things when you're talking about sickness and you're talking about things that are so uncomfortable.
What you find in almost every insurance policy is that trans people, if you go down to the fine print at the very end, they'll talk about all the benefits and everything else. At the very end, they'll be in the very small print that said, but none of this, none of this applies to trans type issues. If it has to do with gender identity, any of that stuff, it's just like they totally exclude it.
They've taken the time to form as stable a relationship as they can, and then yet legally we're putting up obstacles towards that. It's very frustrating.
How do you tell somebody that, oh, it's all right if your partner dies that you've been with for 40 years, because we don't want gay people to be have any rights. We want them to go back in the closet.
It goes to the broader case of families and how, in many cases, families are narrowly defined in a heterosexual model, but it really just causes a lot of suffering because it denies people the ability to set up their family and the ability to provide for their family.
On a daily basis, I see families in my school who can't afford simple things like going to the doctor to get a flu shot or going to the doctor to get asthma medication or whatever, simply because they can barely afford to pay their mortgage or their rent that month.
I think that there is something wrong when healthcare becomes a commodity upon which certain individuals and organizations profit.
I believe in a universal healthcare coverage that covers everybody, and then we wouldn't need to have companies covering, domestic partnerships or same-sex marriages or other relatives who live in a family, if we had just blanket universal coverage, and that would solve so many problems in our society. Healthcare is a huge cost. It's part of what we see when we see bankruptcies and foreclosures. People are losing their life, their livelihood, their homes because of medical debt.
Even the most conservative critics of the Canadian government spoke lovingly about having nationalized health insurance. All these stories that we hear about how people are going to have to wait extra days, that people are not going to be able to see the physician that they want to, are not true. Each story, each person that I spoke with shared stories that they could see whatever physician they wanted to, and if they had the financial resources, they could still get their surgeries, elective and cosmetic surgeries, as well as the necessary surgeries in ample time.
Where basic health is a commodity to be bought and sold and is not a human right.
No child should ever have to go without a safe place to live, without a good warm meal, and without the necessary medical insurance and medical coverage to keep them healthy. Why should my child get coverage and yours shouldn't? Why should your child get coverage and mine shouldn't? Why should, because I have a certain job that affords me benefits, make certain that I get health insurance? Well, you work just as hard, if not harder, but your job doesn't have health benefits, so your children should go without? Again, it's somewhat arbitrary and completely illogical.
We are human beings, and we are Americans, and we have the same rights as everybody. Whether it's health care, housing, jobs, spiritual homes, whatever.
When I think about America, of course I think about a place, where everybody comes together as one. If we're all one, I know I would like health care for myself, and so if I'm going to love my neighbor as myself, then I think that they should be afforded the same opportunities as I am.
Basically, we all need to be working for the day where all people are honored simply by virtue of being human beings, and with no more excuses for people who have prejudices against one group of people or another.
It has to be fixed for us to be who we say we are as a people, for us to live up to the ethical dream, the moral dream of an America that is free for all people, open to all people, in which everyone can thrive and have the pursuit of life, much less liberty and happiness.